My team currently underwrites around 400 deals every single month. Underwriting deals is one of the most overwhelming and time-consuming skills you have to learn to master the real estate game. Although it is not easy, it is essential. And it is very simple to follow step by step, but a lot of us tend to overanalyze. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact system that we use to underwrite deals. All right, so let's say I want to underwrite this deal. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this link and open up another tab. Now, you could do two things. If you have multiple screens, then this will be on one screen and then the second one will be on the other screen. The next thing I'm going to do is heart the property. So now the reason why I have two screens is I will keep the subject property. This doesn't really have any pictures, but when it does have photos of the property, I will keep the subject property open so I could see at all times the characteristics of the property, the year build, basically everything about the property that I want to see. I just have it open. So when I'm comping and I'm on the map around here, if I'm like, damn, what does my subject look like? I just go right back. Or how big was my subject property again? I just go right back here. That's why I have the two tabs open. Now, the reason why I heart it is because when I do leave the map, right, which I'll show you in a second, it's going to be a lot easier to find my property because I'll see that it has the heart next to it. So it's easier for me to see on the map where the property is, especially if it's an off-market deal that I'm comping. The other reason is because if I'm comping this deal, there's a chance that this deal makes sense for me. And when I heart these properties, I show Zillow, I want to see more of these deals. So it's a twofer, right? I get to see where it is on the map, make it easy to see. And plus Zillow starts sending me emails, more of the deals that look like this one. Zillow used to, like, if you see on the side, I'm out on the map. Zillow used to have you be right over the property, but now it's always like this aerial view. So sometimes it's tough to see where you're at. First thing I'm going to do is just go to my filters. I'm going to go to sold. I'm a single family home, so houses. And then what is my year build? I'm a 1989, so I usually go up +9, so +10, 1999. Oops, let me get this out of the way. And then I only want to go back 6 months. I prefer to go back 90 days is ideal, but I'm not going back more than 6 months. All right, so now next, you're like, where exactly am I? The way I do it is I just look at the map on here. Again, another reason why I keep this open. So I'll open up the map and I'll just see, if I zoom out, where am I on the map? I'm right by where it says Gervin, and then I'm right by the highway over here. So let me go look for Gervin. There's Gervin. And then here's the highway over here, right? Atlantic. So now I know I'm right around here. So if I zoom in a little bit more, I'm right around this bed. There's Ashcroft, right? So here's the bend, here's Ashcroft. Let me zoom in a little bit. And there I am. You see the heart? You see how the heart helps me find the property? Though I would not have, so I would have to hover over every house to see that. Or I just go to for sale and I see what's listed. But that makes it easier to see the heart. All right, so now I know I'm right over here. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the location of my property. If I'm right here, I want to see like where's the major outlines, where do I not really want to cross? Like I'm obviously not crossing Atlantic. Gervin Road looks to be like a solid, there it is, double yellow line, right? I'm not crossing Gervin Road either. So I know my boundary is basically going to be Gervin, Atlantic, and I probably will not be crossing Queens Harbor Boulevard either. Yeah, I will not be crossing Queens Harbor Boulevard either. So I see my boundaries are over here. So that's how I first want to find out my boundaries. Okay. The other thing you could do is sometimes Zillow will tell you in neighborhood, it'll tell you the neighborhood, right? So if I want to just see what is the outline for the neighborhood, I'll just copy Gervin and I'll type it in here, Gervin Jacksonville, and I'll see what kind of line it draws for me. So as you can see, it still cuts off at Gervin Road. So I was right about that. I was right about Atlantic. It goes all the way out over here. I probably won't be going to these comps. I'll probably just be finding stuff closer to me right over here. But at least it shows you like, okay, this is all Gervin. I'm definitely not going up here, but it shows me where Gervin is. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it'll just tell you a zip code. But I like to do this, just see what kind of boundary it sets for me. And then I follow my own boundary after that. But at least I know where I'm staying in. So it's a good little trick to see. And then on the side, I'll price this high to low. That's how I'll sort that. You can sort this different ways. Like if I have one bathroom, I can sort this by bathrooms and then go scroll down until I find starting one bathrooms. So I can find other one bathroom comps. But that's how I get everything started off first. So I'm being able to focus in the area I want to focus in. And I have the property open right over here. the next thing I'm going to do is right before I start comping, there are times where it tells me it's a 3-2 1700, and then I look on tax records and it's actually a 2-1 1300 square foot. So I'll just verify tax records really quick. And what you could do is if you go on Zillow and you scroll down, you'll see right after price history, usually it'll say this, find the assessor info on county website. And I just click that and it'll bring me up to the property records. If it doesn't, what I like to use is NetR Online, so publicrecords.netronline.com, and you just click the state you're looking for, and then you look for the county. So I know we're Duval County. If you don't know what county we are in, go to the listing, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and right over here, it'll tell you the county that you're in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for Duval, and then I'm going to click appraiser. And every website is different, so how you fill in the information is going to be different, but I'll put in my information and it'll show me 352 Hartwell Terrace, which is and it's the same exact one as I got from Zillow. So I just wanted to show you how to get it if it didn't have that link, or if the link popped up and it didn't show you what you were looking for. So now I'm going to look at the property and just verify. So we are 1737 square feet heated area, and we are a 3-bed, 2-bath house. We do have a garage. That's what FGR stands for. So now I know that tax records and Zillow align. So I'm looking at something correct. So now let's just say it didn't. If it didn't, I would verify that with like the agent or whoever sent me the deal. Hey, it says that we're 2-1 1500. Was those extra bed bath permitted? And does that make up the additional square footage? Just something you want to keep in mind. So next, I'm going to start looking for comps. Again, I ideally want to look in 90 days. If I find stuff in 6 months, that's fine. That's as far back as I want to go. The other thing to keep in mind is, like, if you find a comp that is a little older, more than 90 days, if it's sold in a time where the market was hotter, then you're going to want to make an adjustment on your ARV. Like, for instance, if I found a comp for Florida in the market pre-hurricane, then I'm going to take off 10% of the pre-hurricane ARV because the market shifted since the hurricane. So you just want to keep that in mind, like what time period did your comp sell in and what kind of adjustment do you have to make? But just to keep this super simple, I'm just going to look at over here, right? So I know I'm right over here. So I want to try to stay as close to me as possible. And the reason why I like looking at this is I could quickly see the homes that are near me and what they look like. I want to find something that is around my square footage. I also don't want to do anything crazy like in jumping. So if I'm a 2-1, 1,200 square foot, I don't really want to comp with a 4-2, like 1,300 square foot, 4-2, like 1,500. I want to stay within 250, 300 square feet of my subject property. And I generally don't want to jump too much with the bed bath count. So if I'm a 2-1, I don't want to use a 4-2. I'd rather use a 3-2, but ideally I would use a 2-1 or 3-1. If I have one bath, I ideally want to find another 1-bath comps, especially if the home is surrounded with other 2 baths. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start looking around here. So we're 4-2 1,700. There's a lot of 2,000 over square foot homes. So I'm going to block this off to be max 2,000 square feet. And now I can start looking. We do have a pool, so that's good. I will use pool comps. If I didn't, I would not be using pool comps. So right around us, we have this 4-2 1,570 square foot home that is remodeled, right? You could tell that is remodeled. Whether you like the remodel or not, it doesn't matter. It's clean enough to where this thing was able to sell for 440 square feet. And it's basically the same exact home as us, just with an extra bedroom. So at 440 right now, 1,570, I want to make an adjustment for the square footage, us being bigger and them being a little bit smaller. They do have that extra bedroom. So I'll keep it as is. I'll kind of make those negate. And right now I'm looking at 440. So that's one comp, right? So let's keep looking. Here's a 1485, a little bit smaller than us, but 440 again, 3-2. That's a 2-story. I'm not going to use that. 1701. Here's one that is pretty much close to our square footage. No pool, it looks like. And it's a super remodeled clean house, right? So that's what I'm looking at. So I'm just showing you quickly like how I'm looking. I'm looking at stuff that is similar to our house, and in square footage and bed bath count. In Florida, I also want to confirm, like, if we're a wood frame or block, like aluminum vinyl, like this might be a wood frame home. You could also verify on Zillow as well. It should tell you the type of home. So Let's see. Does it tell me over here? It says vinyl siding. Usually that means like we're wood frame. I would assume we are based on looking at this, but again, I don't want to get into nuances of Florida, but just to keep this super simple, like I'm looking around here, I see the 409, I see the 440, I see the 440. So I know we're going to be between 410 and 440 right now, right? Step one is to open up the 2 tabs on Zillow to have your subject and then the map. Step 2 is to heart the property just to make sure that you could find it on the map and that Zillow will start sending you more deals that look like the subject property that you're comping right now. Step 3 is to look at the location around you to figure out what your boundaries are going to be. And also you could try to do the neighborhood trick just to have it preset the boundaries for you and see if you want to follow those or draw your own. Step 4 is to quickly verify in tax records that the square footage, bed bath count that shows on Zillow is the same as tax records, so there's no discrepancies. Step 5 is you start with the sold comps. Get your sold ARV, your preliminary ARV from sold comps, making any adjustments you need to do. And then you move on to step 6, which is you verify and use this as a sanity check, your sold comp ARV to what is pending and active. So now actives and pendings are going to tell you where the market's currently at because they didn't sell a month ago. They didn't sell 2 months ago. They're currently listed right now. And if I have an ARV of like 270 from sold, but there's another model match home listed at 270, fully remodeled right near me, and it didn't sell yet and it's been on the market for a while, chances are my ARV is not 270 because the market's showing that that's getting rejected. So I use that as a sanity check. I will not increase my ARV as a result of actives or pendings because they did not sell yet. I don't know where they close at, but I will either know like, hey, my ARV is solid or my ARV is a little too high, but I will not increase my ARV because of the actives or pendings. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to for sale. And I'm going to do I'm accepting pending, right? Back up, all that. So now I want to see, this is not really remodel, not looking at this. 1642 active deal. Looks to be remodeled, right? No pool. It is remodeled, no pool. Been on market for 15 days, 1,500 views. That's pretty strong. That's a strong listing. Again, verifying like no pool. It's a little bit smaller than me, but not having a pool and it getting a lot of activity at 400 basically makes me feel good about my 410, 440 ARV. Let's see, anything else that is around here that is in the 400 range. Here's a 450. What is this one? This one is still active, I think. Yeah, still active, not remodeled at all. They're trying to sell this thing at 450. Chances are it's been on the market for a bit. Yeah, not really a good listing. 22, 452, 365. That's too low. I don't really want to see 389. Okay, here's one. Pretty. I don't like the cabinets, but still clean with the pool, remodeled basically with the pool. And it's almost 200 square feet smaller than me. It's got a pool, 3.2, lots of activity on here. And it's at 389, not pending yet. So that's a little concerning. So now I'm not going to, right now, most likely not leaning towards the 440. I'm probably leaning closer to the 410. Because as you can see, like, it wasn't selling. Some of these remodel homes below 400 aren't selling yet. They're not pending yet. If they were pending, I'd feel comfortable a little higher, but they're not. So right now, based on the pendings, this is pending right here, 1478, 1989. Lots of days on market though. When did it go pending? Was it recent? Back in February. So, okay, a lot of the days on market have been chunked up during its pending. So right now, this is at 370, 1478. I don't remember if there was a pool here. No pool, not really remodeled, has the garage. So right now I feel pretty confident that we could get at least at least 410 on this property, right? And it is, the 440 was, when did this one sell? Okay, back in November, right? So okay, that was 440. This 410 sold in February. I like this one more, right? The 410 because it's more recent. The 440 is showing me back in November. This 439, it's on the lake, and it closed right around the hurricane time. I know Jacksonville didn't really get hit with the hurricane, but right around that time is when this thing closed. So I feel better with a 410 ARV. So now I'm going to say ARV on this thing is around 410. So now that I'm done with step 6, which was compare my sold to the pendings, I was between 410 to 440. After reviewing the active deals for today's market and the pendings, I've decided to go to the lower end of the 405, 410 range for my property. I found some pendings that did have pools that were in the high threes that didn't sell yet or not even pending yet. So I wanted to be a little bit more conservative. So I'm going down to 405, 410. Next is step 7. Step 7 is going to be, now that you have your ARV, you're going to plug it into my buy price calculator, and then you're going to use a suggested dollar per square foot for the rehab level if you're not sure about it. That's why I have this suggested there, so you don't overthink that, and the profit table. And then it'll tell you the buy price. Now, you're going to want to be within 20 to 30K of that, because maybe people see ARV of 415, so there's a 10K swing up, and maybe the rehab they see is 10K lower, so there's another 10K, so that's 20K up. So that's why you don't want to be perfect. You just want to be within the range. And this is the buy price calculator that I made. So I'll put in the house square footage, right? We are 1737 square feet. Okay, 1737 square feet. Now, as you can see, I can't tell photos from here. It doesn't give me any photos, but let's just say, for the sake of this example, it's just a normal cosmetic. So I'm going to put this to low cost because I know it's Jacksonville. You can get things done for cheaper, and full cosmetic, right? ARV, I said, was 410. Okay. And then I'm just going to use a profit table, and I'm just going to click table at the bottom, so I have to keep adjusting this. It'll automatically take this number, and I'll put $30 a square foot just to see right now. Okay. So now this thing is telling me that basically it's going to cost about 50K to rehab this property. It's 410 ARV with a 42K profit. Let's just call it 40, round it down. And I could sell this to a buyer at 287. So now people always ask, like, what's my MAO? What's my MAO? Your MAO is basically the max sale price that you could sell it at minus 5K. I don't care about how much money I want to make. I want to know, what can I sell it at to a buyer max. So for instance, this says 287, like I said, between 20 to 30K. So if I knew a buyer was cool making only 30, I could sell this to him around 297-ish, maybe around 300K. So as long as I'm below the 295, I should be fine. I would ideally rather get this thing under contract below 285, just to be sure. Like, this is the number I really want to start at. If it's at 285, if I have to stretch it, I will, but I'd ideally want to be below 285. So if I could get this around 250, 260, 270, beautiful. But I'll take the chance at 280. If I get it locked up at 280, I'll do that, and I'll push it out at 290. Maybe I'll push it out to 295. Just to see. It really depends on the deal what I'm gonna push it out at. So this buy price calculator helps me realize where I need to be. Now, like I said, maybe it's in worse condition and it's actually $35 a square foot, and somebody wants to keep the $40. So that's where I'm at. I could sell as a 280, which is why, again, I want to be below that 285 range really on this. So you'll learn the market. You'll learn how to play around with like the dollar per square foot for rehab and the profit table. You'll know what buyers in your market are looking for, but that's basically what you're going to do after you get the ARV. So now, just to recap, step 1 is you pull up the property on Zillow, you open up 2 tabs. Step 2 is you heart the subject on the screen that you're going to be comping on, and then you have the subject open on the other one. Step 3 is to look at the location, figure out your boundaries that you're going to stick within, so that you know where you're going to stay looking at for your comps. Step 4 is to quickly verify in tax records that the square footage and everything on Zillow matches the tax. If not, find out about any discrepancies. Step 5 is to start with the sold comps, get your preliminary ARV from the sold comps, and then move on to step 6, which is going to be basically use a sanity check for the pendings and the actives to verify that your ARV is legit and you're not overstating it. Step 7 is to plug your ARV into the buy price calculator of mine. And if you don't know, I would use right up here, it says suggested. It'll change depending on the ARV range, depending on the market type, the rehab level. So you changed to 40 just now, 25. It'll change based on that. So if you don't know, just use a suggested. I built this specifically for Florida. You could update it. There's a how to use video if you want this calculator on how to update the tables over here to update the inputs in the formulas. And then after you get the number, step 8 is to go ahead and now make your offer with confidence to the agent and get this thing locked up. So now here are some additional considerations. What do you do when you're like a unique property? Basically, you're either the biggest in the area, or you're the only 2-story, or you're the only 1 bathroom, etc. When you're unique, when you're an outlier. So sometimes, like if I'm an outlier, sometimes I'll need to go outside my boundaries just to kind of see, like if I'm the only 2-story, I kind of want to see in other areas really close to mine. I don't want to go way too far out, but maybe I go a mile out or 2 miles out. I just wanted to see like, hey, around this general vicinity or even the same zip code, what's the real difference that two stories are selling compared to one? So I try to want to find other two-story comps just to have an idea, a generalization, and then I can make any adjustments necessary based on the one-story comps that I found in my area. Again, I don't want to go too crazy. Like if it's saying 500, like 2 miles down, and the highest comp in my general area is around like 450. Like I'm not going to call it a 500 ARV, but I will see like if single family homes in that area are selling for like, 500, 550, all around there, then I know the two-story isn't that much of a difference. So I'll probably call it like a 440, 450 ARV, maybe 430, just because we're a little unique in the area. Maybe people want single-story homes instead of two-story, but I'll just try to find out from the areas around me, what are the other homes are like mine selling compared to the normal homes for the area, and make any adjustments as a result. You could also check on if there's anything active or pending that looks like yours too, because maybe something didn't sell yet, but maybe there is something that is listed. So you want to just kind of go a little bit outside the scope. Comping is more of an art than a science. And when you have unique properties, this is really where the art form kind of comes into play. I also want to be a little bit more conservative. I'm not going to be too aggressive on it, unless we're like the only house with a pool, like something really great like that. But when we're like the only one bathroom, definitely want to be conservative on ARV. When we're the largest or the only two-story, I want to be a little bit conservative because there's a good chance that the uniqueness of the property is actually a negative. So just be very mindful of that. Don't overshoot your ARV because you're the biggest house on the block. And then the last, like for the unique, just find the closest thing you can as ARV. Maybe it has everything else, like square footage, everything else the same as you, but you're, like I said, a two-story, or you only have one bath. So get as close to a comp as you possibly can as ARV, look around the areas, and then make any sort of adjustments you need to go ahead. At this point, you're not going to be 100% on this. It's going to be, again, a matter of opinion, which all of the ARV is going to be for the most part, but you want to try to get as close to possible as you can. Try to look for other as-is sales for houses that look like you. And then after you get your preliminary ARV and where you think you have to lock it up at, compare that to the as is and see if you can make something happen from there. The next thing too, to help you as another sanity check, is the days on market trick that I use. So if I look at Zillow, I'll see the days on market, right? As you can see here, I have days on market and views. So I leverage that for a sanity check for myself. And the way I do that is, if let's just say it has high days on market and low views, right? So if I have a high days on market and it has got low views, so if it's got 80 days on market and 400 views, you want to be careful if your number is kind of close to list price, unless there was like some really fat price cut that just happened in the last like couple of days. If I'm really close to list price, that means I'm missing something. I'm probably either too high on ARV, too conservative on rehab, or I'm missing the fact that this area might not be as good of an area as I thought. And it could be like a pretty bad area where people are trying to avoid, hence the high days on market and not too many people looking at it. So again, if you're kind of close to list based on your numbers from there, you might want to second guess that number, because if that is true, it would have sold. So there's something you're missing there. You definitely want to get a significant discount from list price based on the high days on market, low view count that the market is showing you it's not selling for a reason. If I have a high days on market and a high view count, I still want to be careful if my number is close to ARV that I calculate as my buy number. I still want to be careful if my buy number is close to list price, because the fact that it still has a high days on market and it's, even though it's got a high view count, like maybe it's 80 days on market and it's got like 3,000 views, there is a reason why it's still sitting. Now, it could be the fact that maybe there were tenants in place and they couldn't get anybody to walk the property, so they couldn't show it, or it was going through probate and they just put it on the market and probate finally finished, so now they're ready for offers. So there are some things that could be considered as a reason why this thing sat for a while, especially if it's getting a lot of views, or maybe the seller's just stubborn and they only want list price and nothing else. You're going to have to inquire about that when you call the agent to find out the story as to why it's sitting for so long, especially with so much activity. But I still would get a little bit of a discount from list price. If there's a story involved, you want to add that to your marketing. However, if it is the fact that it's just they're not getting offers that they like and the seller's stubborn, that's something you're going to be following up with. But again, you still want some sort of discount, because if people see listed for a while and you're right next to ARV, I mean, if you're at least 20, 30K off, you should be fine. I would probably try to go a little bit more. But again, if the numbers make sense and there's a story behind why it was listed for so long, lock it up and get that thing sold. The next is low days on market and low views. So if it's got low days on market and low views, chances are it's just not a seasoned listing. It doesn't mean like, hey, maybe it's overpriced, or that it's in a bad area. It's just new to the market, and it's definitely not a hot deal. If it was a hot deal, it would be the fourth example that I'm going to go over next. So it's a fresh listing. As long as you're not at or above list price, you should be fine. Again, it's hard to tell when it's a low days on market, low view count. Like if it's got 4 days and 500 views, generally it's not going to tell you that it's a bad area or it's a too high of a listing. Underwrite the numbers. If you're kind of close, like if you're 30K off, chances are that you're right. You could be wrong, but again, it's hard to tell. So that one is not really telling. There's nothing really to be aware of for this one. Just, I would say probably list price most likely won't make sense. If it did, then it would be like our fourth example, which is low days on market and high view count. If it's listed at 295, it's got 5 days on market with 5,000 views. That thing is selling most likely over list price. And that thing is priced well. It's in a good area and people love that deal. So that's a very competitive type of property. And if you underwrite that deal, be careful if you're way off. If it's listed at 295 and you're offering 200, you're probably missing something. Either you're too conservative on ARV, you don't know about the area that's really hot, or you're overestimating rehab. Something's coming in to where you're way too low. So that is most likely going to sell over list, or right at list, or right around list. So if you're way too low, be very careful about that. There is something you're missing as well. So that's how I use the days on market and the view count to kind of do a sanity check as well based on my offer number, just to see if I'm missing something there. Remember, comping is more of an art than a science. And with anything else, practice makes perfect. Well, not really perfect, but practice makes you better. The more reps you do, the more comps you're able to comp, and the more feedback you get by either locking up deals a little too high or getting feedback from other wholesalers or from buyers or anything like that, the more you'll get more confident in your numbers, and the better you'll feel comping deals and understanding your market. So comp as many deals as you possibly can, but don't overthink it. Take the chance. Use your gut. Sometimes you just follow your intuition. If you're thinking between 410, 440, and you follow the steps that I said, if you're leaning more towards the 410 range, then just go with it, say, fuck it, and give it a shot. And then the market will tell you if you're right or wrong. And then take any feedback you get from buyers or other wholesalers that you send the deals to, or even agents, and make those adjustments yourself and understand and learn, and just keep learning and learning and learning. And then eventually your numbers will be within the range you need to be in. Because the goal is not perfection with underwriting. It's to be within a certain range. And from what I found, it's accuracy within a $20,000 to $30,000 range. If you're within that range, you're fine. So again, we're not looking for perfect. We're looking for an acceptable range. Get close, stay consistent, and keep on comping.